Hey traders, Raghee here, and I'm going to dive into a concept that I actually have in the recent issue of the Countdown Trader, which is a free newsletter that you can get over at countdowntrader.com. And while that example is about how I take a metals market and then go into a stock, and you can see how that process is done, let's talk about that in an environment where we're just about to possibly get set up once again in copper. So the same idea that we discuss in out of the box or old school. You know, we thinking out of the box, we just going old school. And I love a combination of both. And this copper Freeport-McMoRan trade definitely hits on both cylinders, both in the way that I trade in the simpler futures room and the way that I trade in my Sector Secrets mastery. All right, so let's get to it. Copper is still a really nice uptrend. Everything that I want to see in terms of the confirmation of continued strength is in place. Green grab candles, positive MACD. We have the double green JT trend, which is to say that the 8, 13, 21, and 34 exponential moving averages are structured in a way that tells me that the path of least resistance is still very much to the upside. All right, so what's the play? The setup is to take advantage of a pullback, ideally into a price-based technical level. And that's going to take me typically to something really simple like the 34 EMA high to 34 EMA low range. So this is the range right in here. I'm also noting that there are some interesting higher volume levels, like this level right here, which is basically right around or sandwiched between the 21 exponential moving average and this area here around 407, 406, this area, which would be, let's take a look here. Yeah, about 407, 407.65. Okay. Now the other thing that I can do on this chart is see this low right here? I'm going to anchor this volume weighted average price on the 4th based on the low. So what I'm interested in is whether or not we're moving down towards that anchored VWAP, which is sitting at the 34 EMA high. How's that for confirmation? And then another thing that I'll do is I'll move this other VWAP to the 25th of February, because I love anchoring my VWAPs. So 25th of February, I'm going to anchor that to the high. And you can see we're in a bit of, if you want to look at this as sort of the VWAPs squeezing price in this range. So what I'm looking for is the market to get down ideally to this area. I'd say that's my support zone. And I'm looking for follow through higher through that upper VWAP. So what that's going to do is give me a zone to be a buyer, give me also a zone for the confirmation of the momentum. And that is going to sync up with the Freeport-McMoRan setup, which is as we see the copper market pull back to its zone for a buy, very likely. And take a look at Freeport-McMoRan. These are two different points of control that are anchored to two different lookbacks. That's a great zone right there. So when copper pulls back, Freeport-McMoRan could do the same. This is the stock proxy for this futures trade. It's going to be an overnight swing. We're definitely going to be looking for this trade overnight. But you can see exactly where I believe all the action is going to take place. These are the decision levels. These decision levels are determined by, in some parts, swing highs, but in other parts, the volume-weighted average price. The volume-weighted average price is telling us where there's a certain amount of conviction, because price alone is not conviction. Size at price is, and this is how we measure that, conviction for a setup in copper. I'll see you in the next update.
Without simpler trading, I could not have financial independence.
This is one of the best investments I ever made in my life.
It's helping me find consistency. It's one of the things that won me